we had our 7 a.m. staff meeting. You know, I actually had the devotion that day. It was just ironically my day to you know, we always did a devotion or a word of the day, whatever, thought of the day, and it was my day to do that. And then we were in here just working, watching. I think we were doing blitz pickup. You know, that part of our game plan. You know, getting ready for Georgia Tech, and obviously we'd played Wake Forest the previous Thursday. So you know, had recruited Friday. I think I was in North Carolina Friday night at a game, recruiting a receiver, and we were off on Saturday, back in here on Sunday, and Monday we're right back at a normal week, getting ready for Georgia Tech. And it was probably about 10:30 or so that morning. Door opens up, Andy Johnston. He says, "Hey, Coach Bowden needs to see you." He went in that door, told them, came in here and said, "Hey, Coach Bowden needs to see you on the staff room real quick." And it was just this. It was just really odd because, you know, we'd already had a staff meeting that morning, and you know, if he ever needed to tell something, he would just come in here and whatever. But I remember we all kind of filed into the staff room, and it was, I don't know, it was a weird deal. It was like when we got in there, like, okay, what's going on here? Something strange. And so we kind of all took our seats, and Tommy walked in, and just basically stood in the room in front of everybody, and you know, said, "Hey, look, you know, there's going to be a change." And he said, "Look, I don't want anybody to worry about me." He said, "I'm good." He said, "I worry about all of y'all, and I want you to know how much I appreciate you." And he thanked all of us for the work we had done, and disappointed that, you know, we didn't quite get where we needed to get to. And he wished us well. He said he would be kind of visiting with all of us individually at the right time. He said, "But hey, I'm here for you." And he said, "But right now, you know, Terry Don is right here, and he's going to step in here and say a few words." So it was just emotional. And you know, again, you go from one mindset of you're sitting here, you know, working, and you're so ingrained in what you're doing, and now your whole world, just like that, is turned upside down. And then Terry Don walks in and basically, you know, addresses the staff. You know, Terry Don's not a man of many words, and he just said, "You know, look, man, first of all, I want all of you to know I'd never fire a coach in the middle of the season." He said, "But this is something Tommy and I talked about and felt like this would be the best path for now. So this is what we're going to do." And he basically kind of just challenged us all, you know, "Hey, look, we got a job to do, and I expect everyone to roll your sleeves up, pull together, and do the best you can for this team." And then he just kind of said, you know, "And with that, Dabo, you're now the head coach. You call all the shots, and I need to see you in my office in 5 minutes." And so then he walked out, and it was kind of you know, people kind of slamming notebooks and throwing pens down, and just kind of a, you know, just a really crazy 30 seconds or so of emotion. You know, as an assistant, we're all thinking about our jobs and our families, and that's exactly what I was thinking about. There was nothing positive in my mind, and then it just kind of got quiet, and everybody just kind of standing there looking around, and I just said, "You know, hey, look, I don't know what to say. I mean, let me go meet with him, and we'll get together here in a little bit." And I got up and walked out, and I went and got a notebook, a notepad out of my office. This was my office. I spent, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I spent hours and hours, and so this door was not here. There was no door here. If it was there, it was covered. We had our big credenza thing back here at my desk, and all my pictures and stuff. And this is kind of had a grease board on the wall. So this was my spot right here. This was a great little spot. It's where I started at, right here. I mean, I was in sweatpants and a t-shirt. You know, Mondays are long days. We got in here early on Mondays, and they're still long days. But I was, you know, I wasn't dressed to go meet with the AD, and I'll never forget that. I was so embarrassed because I mean, I'm walking in there, he's in a coat and tie, and I've got sweatpants and a T-shirt on, and I mean, it was just crazy. But I grabbed my phone, I called Kath to tell her. I just said, you know, I said, babe, we've been fired, and she started crying, and my exact words to her, I said, it gets worse. I'm the interim, and because that's where my mindset was. Like, there was nothing good. It was, this is fixing to be the most miserable 7 weeks of my life. And because I had been a part of that. We got fired my last year at Alabama, and Mike, Coach Dabo, stayed and finished the year, but we had like 5 games or something like that as a fired staff, and it was awful. I mean, it was miserable, and that's what was in my mind. And not only was that in my mind, now I've got to try to be the head coach of it. And so it was just, there just really wasn't much positive in my head. I'm worried about my family. Where am I going to be moving? You know, it was just worried about my players, the kids I've got recruited. I mean, it was just it was a lot of emotions. I think I called Kath about right here. Hey, babe, you know, I'm heading to Terry Don's office. Here's what happened. And so it was. I remember my boys, you know, Will and Drew. They were at Clemson Elementary. And you know, I think Kath went and got them, and they had heard something at school already. You know, and they didn't really understand. Terry Don's office was right here. Is this Gant's office now?
No, this is me now.
This is your office?
This is me now.
You are big time.
I know, man.
Dang!
I got it.
You have moved up in the world.
I know it.
Wow, you were like a student or something in '08, weren't you? What were you doing?
Yeah. I was a GA.
A GA, yeah. And so this was Terry Don's office.
Yep.
And he had it dressed up nice, and then it became Leggett's office. So this is pretty cool. But I came in and I walked in right here. So I sit down. I got a notepad and I'm sweatpants and a shirt, and I'm looking at him, and he just and my emotions went from one extreme to the exact opposite. And it's amazing how a few words can change a person's demeanor, mindset, you know, whatever. And he looked at me and he said, you know, sit down right there. He said, hey, look, I know I put you in a tough spot. He said, but Dabo, I just got a few things I want to say to you. And I'm thinking he's going to say, hey, just, you know, here's what I want you to do the best you can. I'm trying to get the next guy to keep you. That's where my mindset was. And he just said, Dabo, he said, I want you to know that I've watched you for 5.5 years. That's how he started his conversation. And he said, and I want you to know that I think you're ready for this job. And he said, here's what I want you to do. He said, for the next 7 weeks, he said, I don't want you to be the interim head coach. I want you to be the head coach. He said, I want you to think like you're the head coach. And he said, and I want you to do whatever you think you need to do to fix us. That was the word he used, and he used that a couple of times. He said, whatever it is you think you need to do to fix us, you do it, and you got my full support. He said, if you need to fire the whole staff, you got my full support. And so this is how the conversation started. And I'm just kind of listening to him, and then he started, you know, just telling me why. He said, look, I've watched you for 5.5 years. I've watched you in the community. I've watched you with your relationships with your players. I've watched how you coach on the field. I've watched you in recruiting. I've watched you just how you manage yourself. And he said, Dabo, I really believe you're what we need here. And this is what he's telling me. And he goes, now I'm also going to tell you this. He said, I'm going to hire the best coach for Clemson. He said, and I'm going to go around and I'm going to do a national search, and I'm going to interview. And he said, I'm going to hire the best coach for Clemson. But here's what I want you to know. I'd love to see you get this job. And he said, now it sure would help if you could win a few ball games. And there was kind of a little moment of laughter. And he goes, but I also want you to know, whether you win all of them or you win none of them or some of them, you're going to get an interview when this is all over. He said, I'm going to give you an interview for this job. He said, and I think you've got a chance to be a great head football coach. And he said, you got any questions? That's really what he said. And I mean, I'm like, And I'm like, and I said, well, no, you're telling me that, like, you want me to be the head, like I can do whatever I want to do to be the head coach. He's like, that's exactly whatever you need to do to fix us, is what he said. And so I all of a sudden I went from this one emotion to adrenaline. I was inspired. I was so motivated of, man, I mean, I got a shot. and I mean, it was just complete extreme emotions back and forth. And so I remember getting up, shaking his hand, and he just kind of smiling at you. He said, good luck. And and he goes, we're all counting on you. That's kind of how that's just classic Terry Don. And I remember getting up and I went over here in Jervy. I left his office and I found I can't remember if it was a little break room or a closet area back on that back hall. And I remember kind of sneaking down here, and I don't even know if it's still here. It was a closet. I don't think it was that closet. It may have been right here. And it was a little break room, kind of like this. But I kind of came in here and closed the door. Went in there and I sat down and I had a notebook and I just started writing stuff down. I mean, I was all over the place. It would be practice thoughts, staff thoughts, recruiting thoughts, fan thoughts, team thoughts. I was just all over. I had a flood of emotions of all these things, and then I sat in there by myself. I prayed, and I started thinking, all right, well, what do I got to do? Kind of a plan of action I put in place for the immediate, like right now, and so I went and I sat down with Brad Scott. Finally I left there because I said, all right, I'm gonna have to meet with all the coaches. And I went and sat down with Brad. You had Brad Scott down here. Brad Scott had the big corner office. Closed the door and he looked at me and he just smiled. He said, well, buddy, how'd it go? And so I told him, Brad's been a head coach. He'd been around a long time, and I told him what he said. I thought it was important that I articulate what was told to me, and of course he was excited to hear that, and I'm sure in his mind he probably knew we didn't have a great chance either. But hey, it's better than no chance. And so then I met with each coach individually and kind of laid out what the AD told me. And I told all of them, listen, I know none of you came to work here for me, and but here's the expectation. And if you don't want to do that, hey, you can go. And your contract is good, no hard feelings. But if you're going to stay, then we're going to have to be professional, and we're going to have to do what's best for these players. And you know what? It's what's best for all of us, because if I get the job, great. It's going to create opportunity for everybody. If I don't get the job, at least we've done a good job, and maybe we have all better paths somewhere else. And but at the end of the day, we got a shot here. We're not just an interim. We're not just minding the ship here. We've got a chance, and we're going to be evaluated on what we do going forward. And then obviously I made a change with the offense because it just wasn't going to work, and it's what I needed to do to try to pull some things together and create just a little different path than where we were. And that was very difficult. It was very difficult, but it's what we needed to do. And so then once I did that and kind of got everybody settled in and said, hey, you're doing this and you're doing this. Dooley, you're going to coach tight ends, and Jeff, you're going to coach receivers, and Billy, you're going to come over here to quarterbacks, and here's what I want, and kind of gave everybody some charge. Then I needed to get ready to address the team, and I knew that was going to be a very emotional moment. And so this is the 4 o'clock team meeting. Tommy met with the team at 4, and he had a chance to kind of go in and talk to them. And then when he was done, they got me and brought me in there, and I made everybody leave. I didn't want anybody in there except me and the players. Obviously, I had a whole segment group that I was coaching, but I had recruited a lot of guys too, and I had good relationships, across the board, offense, defense, and I told them I thought that the team needed to know what the AD had said to me, You know, because I wanted them to know too, hey, look, you're not getting a guy who's just going to be looking for a job somewhere else, and I'm just going to, you know, show up and be the head coach for a few weeks here, and I'm absent-minded because I'm worried about my future. This is an opportunity that I've worked my entire life for, and I had no idea. I didn't ask for this. You guys didn't come here for me to be your head coach. None of us asked for this. All of us is a bittersweet moment. You know, I have such great respect for Coach Bowden. I mean, he was a position coach for a year at Alabama. He was a guy I'd stayed in touch with. He gave me the opportunity to come to Clemson, and he's the reason I stayed at Clemson. I mean, I could have left Clemson a couple of times, and the reason I stayed, I could have gone to Alabama as the passing game coordinator, but I stayed because of the professional growth opportunity that Tommy had laid out for me here. And I knew him. You know, I didn't know Coach Saban at the time at all. I didn't know his staff. I loved my players. I loved what I was doing. And so, you know, he's the reason I stayed here, for sure. And I wanted to be great. I wanted to be successful. But you know, this is just the way God's plan was. And I knew God brought me here in '03 without a doubt. I knew He brought me here on purpose. No doubt in my mind. I didn't really know fully what the big picture was, but I knew this is where I was supposed to be. And that was just His plan for me. And as I look back and I see all the things that were kind of put in place and ordered along the way, you know, a couple opportunities that I could have been gone. God kept me here. Because if I'd have been gone, I wouldn't have gotten this opportunity, and it was all part of His plan, you know. And you know, my plan wasn't as big. God had a bigger plan for me, and my plan was I was disappointed on one job in particular that I thought I had a chance to get and didn't get, and as a head coach, but God's plan a year later was much bigger, and I think that's a lesson I learned is we limit ourselves oftentimes by how we think. And I remember driving in the parking lot, and it was dark, and there was nobody here, and I pulled in, and I was getting ready to park over here, but I just moved in the night before, and so I remember I was like, well, I'll go park up here where Tommy parked, because I got my key to this door, which I thought was kind of cool. I could kind of come in and out, and so I remember pulling around, and like I said, I was kind of overwhelmed that morning driving to work, and I always tell people, I think God winks at you sometimes. And it was definitely a moment in my life where I felt like God just kind of put His arms around me and said, hey, look, I got you right where I want you. Don't have any fear. Don't have any doubt. You're prepared for this, but more importantly, hey, I got your back. And it was just this moment of peace because I pull in, and as I pull in, my lights hit this curb. And I'll never forget it. I put the brakes on, and I've been praying, and I just deep breath, and I'm coming for another day, and I just stopped, and I went, and I just started crying. I started crying right there, and I just said, man, God, I appreciate you, and thank you so much, and I just had this moment of just pure emotion, and from that point forward, I had this total peace. I had total peace that I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I didn't really care anymore. I was just focused on what I needed to do, and I knew that God was ordering my steps. And some people may say that sounds crazy or that sounds corny, but if you're really a person of faith and you're seeking God's direction, He will give you those God winks. Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a number on a curb, maybe it's a sign, maybe it's a person that He puts in your path, maybe it's something that somebody says but if you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, then that's how He communicates with you. And for me, it was just this overwhelming, like, I remember calling Kath saying, you're not gonna believe this. But I all of a sudden I went from this, I was overwhelmed, I was fearful, doubt was creeping in, I was worried, you know, you just distracted by things that don't matter, you know, people saying all kind of stuff, you know, just stuff. And I'm like, you know what, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. And man, I pulled in, I parked the car, and I went on about my business. And 10 years later, I'm back here at this parking spot, and we're still here. I just think that it's amazing. But that was what I needed at that moment. And you know what? It didn't change. I tell people all the time, you know, God will give you comfort. He'll give you peace, but it doesn't change the circumstances. You know, but you have to embrace your circumstances. You know, and you have to understand that sometimes you have to go through things in order for God to develop you into what He's trying to make you into, and to grow. You know, I mean, if you don't have any challenge in your life, there's never any change in your life. You know, in order to truly grow, you got to have some challenge. You know, and you can't walk around in life in bubble wrap and never be challenged in life. You're never gonna grow into anything. You can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid of criticism. You can't be afraid of negativity. You can't be afraid of making mistakes. You got to embrace all of that, because God will use all of that to shape you, and then you have to find joy in all of it. You know, even the toughest of the toughest days, you still got to find a way to have joy in that, and as a person of faith, understand that, hey, God's plan is bigger than our plan, and He never says oops. And so that's always given me peace. But this was a really cool moment, and when I speak at churches, and a lot of times I give my testimony, that's always one of the things that I will reference. Just like when I came up here to interview. When I came up here to interview at 33 years old, making a lot of money, you know, 3 kids, two kids, one on the way, and I get picked up at the airport in Greenville, and I'd never been up there. And I get up on the interstate, and they're driving me to Clemson, and the very first sign I see is Pelham Road. And I just like, you know what? I don't know. I just like, it just, all of a sudden I was kind of at comfort that, man, we'll see. And when I came in here and met with the staff and Tommy, I'm like, if he offers me this job, I'm taking it. I don't care if this is where I'm supposed to be. And Kath was the same way. And a week later, I'm coaching at Clemson, and 16 years later, I'm still here, and I don't have any doubt that that was God's plan. It was an emotional day, and I told the players, you know, we got a choice to make. I'm all in. I don't have a great chance to get this job. I got like, you know, pocket 8s or something. I don't have very good odds here, but I'm fully committed, and I am all in for these next 7 weeks. And there's going to be some things different, and I know you guys, y'all don't owe me anything. And I've talked to the AD. You guys can clean your locker out. Your scholarships are good. You can come back when the new coach gets the job. You don't have to do anything I'm asking you to do. But if you do show up tonight at 6 o'clock, all right, here's the expectation. And we're going to practice different. We're going to meet different. We're going to travel different. We're going to think different. There's going to be some differences. And I told them then, I said, you receivers in this room, I'm going to coach the whole team like I coach my group. And there was a chuckle. The guys kind of laughed in there, and you know, they all showed up at practice that night. And those seniors, I mean, the Aaron Kellys, the Tyler Grishams, the James Davises, you know, that group of guys, the Darrell Scotts, that group of guys that didn't owe me anything, that were on their way out of here, you know, Mike Hamlin, all that crap, they could have just tuned me out, but they showed up as a 3-3 football team, and we went 4-2 down the stretch, and 2 of those 3 wins were like 1 AA opponents that year. I mean, we were a mess, and it was, and that's what, even though we lost that first game, I was so proud of that team, how they competed, how they played. I think other people were inspired if they really watched the game. We didn't win the game, but I'm like, you know what, this was pretty cool to see a group of guys laid on the line like they did. And then we had that open date. I changed up how we did the things in the open date. I remember that week I caught a bunch of criticism because I did a community service, you know, and guess what we're doing today? Community service, exactly what we did 10 years ago this week. and we're doing the same thing. So, but I felt, because I remember I was like, we're just practicing in a different way. You know, it's all part of teaching. And this was the whiteout room, so this is where I spent hours upon hours. And it's now Stephanie's office. Oh my gosh! I didn't know this was you're in my office.
Hi.
Oh my goodness! So I had all my video stuff right here, all my tapes and all my teaching stuff, all my receiver books and things I was teaching, and then my desk was right here. And so I had my video camera, so I would sit here and I'd have all my receivers chairs, and had a big board there, and would come in every day, and this is where I met with my guys.